Welcome back. Next up on the program, over 24 passengers on board the charter plane held in France for days over suspected human trafficking have stayed back despite the aircraft flying back to Mumbai after legal clearances. These include 20 adults and 5 minors who've sought asylum in France. The plane belonging to Romania's Legend Airlines landed in Mumbai early this morning with 276 passengers after a go-ahead from a French judge. The Nicaragua-bound Airbus A340 was carrying 303 passengers, most of them Indians. When it reached Vatry Airport near Paris, it was grounded on its arrival from Dubai for refueling after an anonymous tip-off that the passengers could be potential trafficking victims. Well, we've got the lawyer for Legend Airlines with us. Before we get to her and our panel of experts, what exactly is the extent of attempts made by Indians to get into the United States as per illegal migration patterns? There's been a significant rise in the number of Indian nationals looking to enter the US illegally. The numbers that we can now share with you is from the US Customs and Border Protection Force and accounts for Indian nationals who've been caught while trying to enter the US. This includes accompanied minors, individuals in a family unit, single adults and unaccompanied children or single minors. In 2021, there were 30,662 Indians looking to illegally enter the US. That number went up to 63,927. This year, the number stands at 96,917. Of this, single adults are the largest category. In 2021, there were 29,160. In 2022, there were 56,739. In 2023, that's gone up to 83,517. Worryingly, there are unaccompanied children or single minors as well. Just think about it. Little children being sent alone, possibly with friends, without their family, to try and get into the US. 237 in 2021, a whopping 730 attempts in 2023. Well, joining us now, Liliana Bakayoko. She's a lawyer for Legend Airlines. Nilesh Tribhuvan, an advocate in the Supreme Court who looks at immigration concerns. Loveleen Gill, an immigration lawyer from Canada, joins us as well. Liliana, let me come to you first. Were you remotely aware that many of the passengers on board this flight were trying to get to Nicaragua in an effort to illegally get to the United States?
Not at all, actually. Well, I'm the lawyer of Legend Airlines, the aircraft company that performed the flight. But this was a charter flight. So it was ordered by a client of Legend Airlines, a foreign company. And this client chose the destination, the starting point, and sold the tickets to the passengers. So Legend Airlines wasn't the company which was responsible for checking the passports, the ID documents, the travel documents, the visas, the tickets, etc. All these obligations were supposed to be performed and handed out by the client of Legend Airlines. So Legend Airlines had no means to know where the passengers are supposed to go. And even a regular commercial airline is not supposed to know when you buy a ticket where you intend to go after landing somewhere. So no, Legend Airlines had no ideas at all about the destination and the intent of the passengers. The final destination, I mean, it was supposed to carry them to Nicaragua, but there was no possibilities for the aircraft, for the airline to know where the passengers intend to go next.
Who was the client that hired the services of Legend Airlines?
It was a foreign company, a non-European one. But Legend won't disclose the identity of this company at this time because criminal investigations are ongoing and because the presumption of innocence should be applied properly and because of client-friendly practices within Legend Airlines. So for now, we can't answer this question.
But you've disclosed it to those who are investigating this case, right?
Well, necessarily, they have all the necessary information, of course. But these are investigators, and they will keep it secret as long as they consider that it is necessary to do so. We don't want to interfere with the investigations. We want to cooperate with French investigators, Indian investigators, any investigators that can legitimately search to establish what has happened.
And so you flew back to Mumbai today. There were, of course, a couple of passengers who sought asylum in France. Who paid for the return journey?
For now, the company is paying everything. This is the problem, so it will sue its client to recover damages for what happened. Because these are huge costs for the company. The plane was not intended to go in India. It was intended to go to Nicaragua and to get back to the United Arab Emirates. So this journey to India and the travel back to the United Arab Emirates and the stay in France were not planned at all. And the reputation of the company has been hugely damaged, the image and the reputation of the company. So Legend will seek damages from its client, but it won't disclose its identity to the public.
And there have been previous flights as well from Dubai to Managua, right?
Yes, for the same client, ordered by the same client. Yeah, charter flights ordered by the same client. Yes.
And were there many Indian nationals on board those flights as well?
I can't answer this question. We have the lists of passengers, but Legend doesn't track records of the nationalities of the passengers as percentages. It just tracks records mainly of the names and the regular travel documents. We don't have statistics about how much Indians and how much other nationals have been on board. We have the list, we can check, but we don't have just the number right now,
Yeah, I'm sure you have the nationality of the passengers that you embark. You may not have that with you now, but
yes,
I mean, that's
one
of the
Of course, we have the nationalities, but we didn't track records that we can specifically just display right now. We have to check with the system, etc.
No, I understand. So you are not aware of whether a large number of passengers on previous flights were from India or not. That's essentially what I'm asking.
No, personally, I'm not. No.
Right. Could you tell us what happened, Liliana? And I really appreciate your coming on and taking these questions. What happened when the aircraft landed at Vatry or near Paris? What exactly happened? I mean, who started asking questions, etc., etc.?
It was a peculiar situation because I was in contact with the crew, and the crew was ordered to leave the airport, to leave the passengers behind. So the captain was just wondering what he's supposed to do because he has duties to the passengers, towards the passengers. So the crew was ordered to leave the airport, to go to a hotel and to wait for the local authorities to just call and tell them, come to the police station to testify as witnesses, not as accused people, completely free, but they had to be at the disposal of the local authority for a testimony. So a couple of hours later, the police called them, and they were really afraid. They didn't understand what's going on. We had no information at all. There were some kinds of, pieces of information in the newspapers and in the media, but we didn't know what to expect exactly. So I just advised them to go and to say everything they know and to go, not to go away, because some of them were afraid to go. So everybody went there, and the interrogations took place. It took hours actually, and they were all left free to go. But the plane was seized at the same day. So at the same time, actually, almost at the same time, the plane was seized. So we didn't know what to expect. So they were free to go, but the plane was not free to leave, and the passengers were all summoned to remain in the airport. They were retained at the airport, actually, without the possibility to leave. So the company didn't know what to expect. And later, the plane was released. The plane was released from seizure, but the passengers were still retained. So the company decided not to leave, but to wait and see what would happen with the passengers. And a trial was set up, a kind of hearing, I would say, was set up in the airport, actually. Some judges went there with the attorneys to listen to the passengers, actually. And after 3 hearings, the judge declared that the procedure that the detainers is completely irregular, because under French law, when you detain somebody, when the police detain somebody, it is obliged to notify him his rights with a translator if he doesn't speak French, and with an attorney.
Yeah.
And there were no translators available. There were 2 translators, and one of them left because of some personal considerations. So there were no available translators, and it took too long to the local authority to notify the rights of the passengers. So the judge said that, well, the procedure is irregular because of this, because people have been stayed within the airport actually for hours.
Yes.
Some say for 11 hours, without knowing at all what's going on, without understanding the explanations. And nobody was giving explanations actually even in French. So these people were afraid, they were in inappropriate conditions. So the judge said, rude, that the detention is irregular. And well, the French authorities decided to stop the hearings and to just leave everybody go home. So after that, other problems appeared because some of the passengers didn't want to go to India, because India was the only country that was ready to just accept the passengers very quickly. The United Arab Emirates refused. Nicaragua, as far as we know, also. So as the passengers were Indian nationals, the Indian embassy worked hardly with the French authorities to speed up the process of obtaining all the permits necessary to fly to India. So the passengers were informed that they would go to India, but some of them, dozens of them actually, refused to go and said, no, we won't board the plane at all. So we had another issue because we had to take off at 10. The Indian authorities took a little time to deliver the permits, so we decided to leave at noon, but we couldn't leave because the passengers didn't want to board. So negotiations started between the Indian embassy, the French authorities, and the passengers. And, well, at the end, 276 passengers boarded and left to India, and the others requested asylum.
Right. Well, Liliana, thank you very much for sharing all of those details with us. Appreciate, you being on this program. You're welcome to remain. I just wanted to go across to Loveleen Gill. She's an immigration lawyer in Canada. He's an immigration lawyer in Canada. Loveleen, how bad or how serious is the route between Canada and the United States in terms of efforts being made by Indians trying to illegally get into the US? We've seen a huge rise in the numbers.
Yes, Vishnu, as you have shown in the graph, the numbers are spiking in the route which you are mentioning. So Nicaragua has become a sort of entry point from South America, and the US government has noted this fact too. So these routes, if I may say so, are nothing less than a death route. They are a death trap. Hundreds of people lose their life trying to illegally cross over the international borders, because the geographical conditions in this route are it's a thick jungle. These countries are tropical countries, and the other thing, except for the route, the legalities of this issue, once illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants enter their destination countries, if they do so after crossing this death route. So the only 2 things they do: either they apply for the asylum at the port of entry, as the lawyer for the company was telling us that some of the passengers have applied for asylum in France. And the second option that they do is they wait for general amnesty schemes that the governments they come up with from time to time, where undocumented immigrants are given immigration status, they are given documentation. It is according to the government's or the host country's needs. Sometimes they do come up with these sort of programs,
sure,
where undocumented immigrants are regulated,
right,
and regularized.
No, absolutely. Lovely. And I just wanted to go across to Nilesh Tribhuvan. Mr. Tribhuvan, is the government of India doing enough to stop this sort of thing? Shouldn't there have been some sort of advance notice that a large group of Indians were trying to fly to Nicaragua? It's not a common route. intelligence agencies, border agencies work with other border agencies. How could such a large number of Indians land up in Dubai for a flight to Nicaragua without the government of India and some authority over here being aware of the fact that they were trying to do this?
See, firstly, I believe while they were going from India to Nicaragua, till Dubai, there were no such suspicion which anybody has anticipated at that point of time. The only suspicion started from Dubai to Vetri when the flight has landed there, and thereafter the French government has suspected something, and then inquiry has started, and from there the entire scenario has been escalated. I disagree with Liliana with the fact that when she specifically said that they had no details from where this flight is going and where it was supposed to land. I believe they were the one who had absolute knowledge about the fact. When 303 passengers are traveling from India to Dubai and from there to Nicaragua, while coming back, none of the passengers had booked a return ticket. The flight was coming empty. So that was a suspicious call. I believe the Liliana could have been raised at that point of time itself. That was an alarm. The alarm could have been given to the government of India.
Liliana, that's a valid question. Liliana, would you like to take that? Did these passengers have a return ticket from Managua?
Well, I'm the lawyer of the company.
Right.
But my colleagues who defended the passengers before the judge during the hearing told the press and the media that the passengers they defended had all return tickets.
I see.
They had hotel reservations and return tickets, but they had return tickets for 4 or 5, I don't know, I even don't know for when actually, but not for the next day. And the plane, as far as I know, was supposed to return the next day. So
no, I understand, but they did have return tickets. So that answers.
They did have return tickets, but as far as I know, with another plane.
Right.
Only for 12 of them had a return ticket.
Well, we need to find out.
303 passengers.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Out of 303 passengers, only 12 of them had a return ticket.
I don't know how
and
much.
This is not happening for the first time. This has happened earlier also. This has happened earlier also with the same airline, same agency, same client.
Yeah, but actually, we never said the opposite. I mean, the company was the airplanes of the company were hired by a client, which is a foreign company, to perform such flights.
No, I understand that, and we've gone through that point, Liliana. But he makes a point that, according to him, his information is that just very few passengers had a return ticket. But you don't have the exact numbers with you.
According to my colleagues in France, all the passengers they defended, almost all of them had return tickets and hotel reservations. But it is true that only 3 passengers were heard by the judge.
I see.
Out of 303.
So I just wanted to go across, because I'm running short of time, to Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador, is the government doing enough to stop something like this, illegal immigration?
Well, I think the events that have happened that we have been listening to for the last so many minutes, it highlights that this aspect of human trafficking has suddenly assumed a dimension that has not been there all these years. Just the figures of the illegal immigration to the US by Indian nationals is jumping up by 3 times in the last 2 years. I mean, this is an enormous figure. And I think that these events have highlighted the need to keep a much closer track. I mean, this issue of return tickets that you've been discussing, this is a very important one. But then the question is that if somebody is going to Dubai and then from onward taking that ticket to Nicaragua, so who is to check? Is it the Indian departure lounge agency or the customs agency or the migration agency that sees the people off from India, or is it the people in Dubai? This is a huge problem. Human trafficking is a very real and very serious and very a terrible issue. And I think that this wake-up call has come at a time when government will certainly tighten the restrictions, and you have to catch the kingpins. You have to identify who is doing this. who are the kingpins involved in this, and it's a criminal event. So catching the kingpins is very important. I think that some of the points made by our Supreme Court advocate are very valid and very important, and they need to be looked at. I mean, number one, the return ticket. Number two, the way this airline is a chartered flight. Normally insists on coming back on the same flight. I have not heard of a chartered flight going one way and then coming back empty. So this itself is a point that when you have a chartered flight, these points have to be checked. But again, this chartered flight is leaving from Dubai. It's not leaving from Delhi. So how do you do this? It needs probably, interaction with intermediary points where such passengers are collected.
No, absolutely, Ambassador. Lots of key points over there remain unanswered. I'm sorry I'm running short on time on this program, but this is a huge concern, how this actually took place and what is being done to prevent something like this. Those numbers are staggering. That's just to one country. We'll take a short break. We're out of time on Left, Right and Centre. From all of us here, good night.